China was the first country to have U.S. standardized testing, a national test to select government officials. That's when it started about around 600. So it'll be 1,300 years old system already at that time. And then the content at that time was basically memorization of the classics. So the test itself had nothing to do with your job. And the test had nothing to do with your practical ability, but it's evolved in the test. It's so fair and transparent. I was quite lucky in the sense I did not have good education. Therefore, I was not subject to all of those great things that the Chinese system could have done to me, because I grew up in the village. None of my parents actually, neither one of them was literate enough to teach me anything. I was the first in my village to ever get into college. I was the first in my family who ever got into beyond 3rd grade. People actually do ask the same question. Say, so you are part of that education system and you taught there, you were a student. How come when you are so critical of the system, you have become, in a sense, creative? But I said, again, it's in spite of, it's not, because of. The American education system now is driven by No Child Left Behind and other relevant reforms to push us towards standardization, centralization, and valuing test scores, which actually is, I think, moving America away from the future, because the global economy requires niche talents, requires us people to become artists, become creators, become musicians, become innovators, become people who are generally passionate about their work and who also live in a happier life, who understands and respect other cultures. This is just crazy. We're returning all our workers back into lower level, left brain directed workers. Now today you hear a lot of standardization, No Child Behind. Even this big standards movement, national standards, national accountability system. And the argument is that, gravity works the same whether it's in Windsor, Canada, or in Marin County, California. That's very true. However, whether a community wants to or how much they want to emphasize gravity in their lesson is different. Maybe the way you approach it is different. The examples you use is different. How is it relevant to each person is different. So I think we are taken over by this idea about, math works the same way in China and works the same way in Florida. That's very true. However, the relevance of that knowledge to the community, to the individual person is different. Therefore, should be approached differently. So education should not be a global thing. You should not have a global standard or national standard. Education should be very relevant locally, individually, and personally. And American youth tradition have that. Now we're actually, again, moving away, which I call the dictatorship or authoritarian approach towards education. If you look at most other countries, China, Japan, Singapore, they're actually trying to move away from the traditional centralized, standardized authoritarian approach toward more autonomous, local control version of education, which allow individuals, parents, schools to define what success means. So change the mindset is, first of all, I think our community, our public, our parents, and our teachers got to believe that education is about the individual person, is about a person's passion and spirit, is not about how much knowledge you have mastered. For example, I have passion about, let's say, gaming, which I think can be valuable. But then, however, you try to force me to learn something about physics. You think that's valuable as the system, the government. But I want to pursue gaming, so that's knowledge. Then you drive me to do that. Of course, I will lose passion. It's about preserving the spirit, about respecting the individual. We're fearful of letting go. About 10% of Chinese college graduates are able to work for multinational corporations. 10%. That's a very small number. And right now, most actually China has practically no self-owned innovation patents. They have to export about some, I think, 800 million shirts to buy one Airbus 380. They don't like that. China, they hate that, you know. So the damage is huge. That's why China is so eager to abandon this system, but they can't. They're stuck because the culture has defined to say tests, the college national test, like national college entrance exam, is the only way, fair way to select, you know, the ruling class or people who can get into elite class. But also that's been used as indicator of true quality of schools and teachers. So if No Child Behind continues, if people start to believe that the quality of education of schools is test scores, then it will be hard to reverse that. What I would say the strength of American education is celebration of individual talents. Look, just a good example is that my daughter's 5th grade talent show. I mean, you know, if you go to elementary schools all over the country in the US, they have talent shows. They may not have talent at all. But what's important in those, I said, that's really the spirit of American education. First of all, you do not prejudge whether the student's talent is valuable or not. You say, come to show it. The second of all, you do not evaluate to say whether your talent is better than others. We give you an award. We do not rank them. We have no criteria, no standard. We just celebrate. The fact you exist, you can bring that in front of an audience is powerful. And students and parents take that very seriously. You know, they find partners, find different props, they dress up, they work very seriously. So that helps children develop a strong belief of themselves, the self-confidence, and the value of themselves. What does that do for a country? It preserves a diversity of talents. And you know, as biodiversity, genetic diversity are vital to the survival of any ecosystem, a diversity of talents helps a country to be vibrant. Imagine you had just one type of talents, you know, but what if the economy changes? Can the country keep up? It can't. But in the US, we have been able to survive so many different waves of major changes and eventually still stay ahead of the game in the long term. That's number one thing about education. However, we're driving that out because we do not tend to value that as much. No Child Left Behind tells us only to value test scores in certain subjects. We should not let kids to completely say, do whatever you like every day. There's certain discipline that all kids have to learn, but that discipline should be connected with the content they're learning, should be connected to their passion. It's experiments. We should allow kids to experience, to fail, and then pick it up again. That's about, you know, again, training a person to be a resilient person, to have discipline. So it's not really the wild, wild west to say, okay, do whatever you like. But I think today, however, technology, globalization has made it possible for kids to truly pursue their own individual interests and talents, and those talents and interests can be valuable on the global market. So what I think the federal government needs to do is to say, okay, let's strike this law and to say we still support education, make them into grants to support innovative uses. For example, you're talking about project-based learning. I want to build an arts academy. I want to build an online school for supporting fashion design, another school for supporting kids' passion, let's say, in sports management. So that's how you have to do to support innovative, localized versions of education, which can serve on a global scale. People have this strong belief that art, music, humanities are soft subjects. They're easier. Really, you think playing the violin great is easier than to computer programming? I don't think so. So there's some people think about, tough, math and science are tough subjects, and others are easier. I don't think so. So anyway, I think in terms of the flat world concept, heightens this very simplistic view of direct competition, not finding your own unique niche talents. I think that's what we should do. We should stop comparing with other countries. Americans should be more American, not more Chinese or Indian or Japanese.